Hey folks, back for another Masculinity Monday. Picking up on the second one. Last week, if you missed it, I kind of messed up where I posted it. I posted it only to the Substack, jackwilkie.co, and meant to take it over to the YouTube channel where I'm going to be posting this, and I didn't realize I couldn't download it. So once I streamed it to my Substack site, I just wouldn't come down in the right formatting and all that, and so it's only up there. It's kind of the introduction to what I'm doing with this series of videos. The rest will now be posted to YouTube and then to Substack, so wherever you're watching this, be sure and subscribe, whether the Focus Press YouTube channel or my Substack, as you see there, jackwilkie.co. And as always, I like to tell you guys about the Church Reset podcast feed, whatever podcast app you listen to, Apple, Spotify, whatever it may be. Go ahead and subscribe to that, and you'll get the audio of these videos that I'm doing, of all the articles. I read them and post the audio up there. And 4 or 5 days a week, you'll be getting something new. Most of them very brief listens, but for wherever you're on the go or working out or doing chores around the house, whatever, you can listen and catch up. I know there's a lot to read, a lot to watch, and that might be the best way to do it. And as always, as I said, subscribe there at my site if you'd like, or on the and I should say, I'll push both of them, the Focus Press YouTube channel as well. To get these, there's going to be Masculinity Mondays, Thursdays Through the Text, the occasional cultural breakdown. I've talked recently about the 2 Olympic controversies with the Last Supper and the male-female boxer controversy. And so, just, again, keep an eye out for each of those. And then, of course, the articles that go up each week. Having said that, let's get into Masculinity Monday. I've been trying to decide which topics I want to cover. I don't want to step on the Godly Young Men podcast too much because they've covered such a gamut of interesting topics. But in these little 5-minute blurbs, I think what I want to do is go through the biblical text and find lessons about masculinity in there. And I want to start by looking at David and Saul. You see 2 kings, and Saul did some good stuff. Saul had some positive attributes, but ultimately was a king who had the kingdom taken away from him, was unfaithful in a number of ways, turned on David, and all those things that we see. But you see the seeds being planted early on as to why he was going to be the kind of king that he ended up becoming. But the same is true for David. The good things you see about David later on were planted very early on. And so I want to look specifically at one particular attribute, looking in, let me get my screen share going, in 1 Samuel chapter 9, when we're introduced to Saul. It introduces Kish, the man of Benjamin, and it says there at the end of verse 1 that he was a mighty man of valor. He's not talking about Saul yet. It says in verse 2, he had a son whose name was Saul, a choice and handsome man, and there was not a more handsome person than he among the sons of Israel. From his shoulders and up, he was taller than any of the people. That's nice. That is the kind of stuff that people usually look for in leadership. There's that stat about how many major Fortune 500 corporate CEOs are above 6 feet tall, and most of our presidents are above 6 feet tall. Like, you look to that and think leadership. Unfortunately, as a 5'9" guy, I did not get that advantage, but the people are going to look for that. But notice how external that is, and when we see him at work, what's actually happening. In verse 3, now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. So Kish said to his son Saul, take now with you one of the servants, and arise, go search for the donkeys. He passed through the hill country of Ephraim, and passed through the land of Shalishah, but they did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Shalim, but they were not there. Then he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they did not find them. When they came to the land of Zuph, Saul said to his servant who was with him, come and let us return, or else my father will cease to be concerned about the donkeys, and will become anxious for us. We tried, let's go home. That's kind of end of the road here. On the other hand, when we go and we look at David and his introduction, in 1 Samuel 16, when Samuel is sent to the house of Jesse to anoint the next king, they pass by, and this is, of course, you remember where you see, again, tall, handsome, strong guys, and Samuel's thinking, that's the guy. He's going off of the same physical judgment that we tend to do, and God says, no, I look at the heart. And when you see in verse 10, the Lord has not chosen these, verse 11, are these all the children? He said, there remains yet the youngest, and behold, he is tending the sheep. David is out there doing his job. David's taking care of business, and when he comes in, that's the one. God says, anoint this one, anoint him, for this is he. Of course, in the next chapter, in the fight versus Goliath, we see Saul and David having the conversation, and Saul saying, yeah, this is a bad idea, you're young, and Goliath is this mighty warrior. Verse 34, David said to Saul, your servant was tending his father's sheep when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock. I went out after him and attacked him, and rescued it from his mouth. And when he rose up against me, I seized him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has taunted the armies of the living God. He's not worried about Goliath. I mean, he fought a lion and a bear. He's kind of been through the ringer. But you see the difference in this young man who he's introduced as out doing his job, taking care of his sheep. When push comes to shove here with Goliath, he's somebody that has walked the walk. And this, between these two, you're really seeing Jesus' concept of faithful in little, faithful in much. And so for this Masculinity Monday, I want to just focus on competence. Competence is so key for being a true man of God, for a leader, for what a man is called to be, being truly masculine. And with so many of these things, people say, well, aren't women supposed to be competent too? Absolutely. But if you're going to be looked at as the leader in a marriage, if you're going to be looked at as the leader in the household with your children, if you're going to grow into leadership in the church or culturally or in a job or whatever else, there is a thing where people are looking to the men to lead. And again, that is something that God established. He baked into the natural order of things. And women don't want to follow a man who's not competent, a man who's not good at his job, a man who does not give them the comfort and security of realizing I can trust him to get things done. And so you've got it for your leadership among women, but just for yourself and your own sake, the respect that you're going to garner for the difference you're going to make for other people, the fact that people are going to look to you if you're not competent. And look what happened with Saul. This was an incompetent person who was put in leadership, and you see what happened. The people of Israel at one point were fleeing the country out of fear of the Philistines. You've got here in this David and Goliath episode, Saul is cowering in his tent. He's the tallest guy in Israel. He's the guy that has the weapons, as you can read about in the text as well. He's the guy that should be facing Goliath, and he won't. Faithful in little, faithful in much. And so wherever you are in life, if you're a husband and a father, competence is a big deal. This thing that we have these days, boy, I don't know why she married me. Boy, I just really married up and I don't deserve her and stuff like that. If you keep telling her things like that, and if that is your view in life of like, man, I don't, this wife that I have, this family that I have, well, you need to have the competence that you can tell yourself and her, yes, I'm leading. I'm doing my part in this relationship. If you're not married, if you're young, or if it's in the workplace or in the church or whatever it may be, display competence. Every little thing that you do, if you're working at McDonald's, there's no shame in that. There's another opportunity to be faithful in little and be the best employee they have. The kind of faithfulness you put into the tasks that you have right now, the things that are in front of you, plays out later. Saul saying, let's not worry about my dad's donkeys. That kind of stuff played out in his kingship as well. When you read about in the Proverbs, he who is diligent in his work, or I'm butchering the quote, but essentially if you work hard and do a good job, you're going to stand before kings. That the faithful in little gets you bigger and bigger opportunities. And so again, whether it's as a member of the church, be competent, show up, be a part, serve. Don't try and take over and force your way, but be a part that shows people I'm reliable. In the workplace, be reliable, be consistent, show up on time, have a good attitude. In the home, do your part. Don't let your spouse carry you. Don't let your wife wear the pants in the family in that sense, and that you and she both know she works harder than you, she's more on top of her game than you, or whatever it may be. Be competent as a man because of how much of a difference it makes. And you see the kind of king David was for the good parts that he did. You see the kind of king Saul was. It starts with tending your father's sheep or tending your father's donkeys or whatever it may be. You've got something in front of you. Be competent right now, today, in whatever you have to do. So that's what I've got for this week's Masculinity Monday. We're going to look at a lot more of Saul and David and the good, bad, and ugly of David's kingship. There's just so many lessons to draw from people like this, from God's men throughout history and throughout the scriptures. And so be sure to be, again, subscribed, as I said before. And keep an eye out for, again, articles coming Thursday through the text. I'm going to try and get that started this week. We'll see if time permits. But just different things like that. Keep an eye out, and I will talk to you guys on the next one.